tough win tonight. Made some big shots down the stretch. Made our free throws when we need to make our free throws, and we got away with a win. Probably didn't play our best basketball. Give Averett some credit. They did some things differently defensively that we hadn't seen. We had trouble. We too many mistakes, too many turnovers. We let them stay in the game I think we had 31 turnovers tonight, so that's tough. But, we're young, and when we went down one late, as young as we are, we could have kind of let it get away from us. And I thought, Lindsey Martin made a huge three down the stretch, which we really needed. And then we made our free throws when we need to make our free throws. So at this point, any win's a good win, and gives us a week to prepare for what we got coming up next week. And we just got to get in the gym, and we got to work and get better. That's kind of our focus right now, is to get in the gym, work hard every day, and get better. And obviously we're not where we want to be at this point, but I think we're getting better, and hopefully we'll continue to get better, and when it matters most, we'll be where we want to be.
I know that Lindsey's three-pointer that finally proved to be the game winner, I think that occurred after an offensive rebound, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he kind of caught Averett in having to transition back to defense real quick, and with you see that kind of three occur a lot in those situations where the guards has to come back.
Well,
has to come back, and she's open at the 3-point line, and after she's like she said she'd already dropped back to play defense.
Well, I think we talk a lot. Anytime you get an offensive rebound, everybody's in around the basket, so that's a great time to kick the ball back out for a three. I mean, you don't see it happen a lot, but everybody's in around the basket. There's nobody out, guarding shooters. So if you got good shooters and you get an offensive rebound, if they'll spot up on the arc and we'll throw the ball back out, there are a lot of times you get some good looks. But that was a big offensive rebound, and it's a nice pass out, and it was a big shot for us, and we needed it. And I think Lindsey needed it a little bit for her confidence. And Lindsey she's a good basketball player, and I know her numbers this year hadn't been where she'd want them to be. But we got a lot of basketball left to play, and maybe this will be something that kind of sparks her and gives her some confidence moving forward. And we needed it. And
I mean, if she hits 2 shots for you the whole second half, the one that put you ahead early after y'all had fallen behind, and then obviously they would prove to be the game winner. So I mean, you're gonna talk about pivotal baskets. So.
Yeah, they were big, and the thing is, they were playing a kind of a junk defense on us. They were playing Jacob man-to-man and playing zone everywhere else, and it's not something that you see every day, and it's not something you practice a lot against. But we talked about it after the game. There were things that were open, and one of the things that were open is, when Jacob was being guarded man-to-man, Lindsey was open a lot of times on that little fade screen that we were running, and we did not do a good job of getting her the ball in those situations. And we did. The first possession of the second half, or one of the early possessions in the second half, we hit Lindsey on that screen and made it. And that's something that we talk about. Like, we run some things and you score off of it, and then you think, we come back to it and run it again. Sometimes we don't do that. We forget what worked for us. And that's something that we need to do. Once again, we ran a little early in the first half when we realized what they were doing defensively. We ran a little dribble entry and set a little block-to-block screen for our post player, and we ran it right twice, and we scored layups both times. And then we don't run it again. So that's just something that basketball IQ. We got to get better at that. We got to understand, when.
If you'd been a little bit better then, probably she might would have gotten more.
Yeah, you get more shots. You get more shots if you see it, and we get focused in. But how about Jacob? They're playing a boxing one on Jacob. She goes 9 for 11 from the field, 9 for 9 from the free throw line, and ends up 29. That's not too bad against boxing one on you.
That's true. I mean, I guess. Seems like they would have gotten out of it.
Well, but I guess they did. And to Jacob's credit, we talked a little bit about being patient and trusting your teammates. In the last game, she went, which is not a typical Jacob game. She usually shoots the ball well, but last game she went 5 for 19. She didn't force a lot tonight. She got 11 shots, but she was efficient. I'd rather you go 9 for 11, than 5 for 19. It's just yeah. And she got to the free throw line, and one of the things that we worked on, we talked about after the Maryville game, is they're going to guard her that way. I mean, she's a good player. You're averaging close to 20 points a game. You're going to get face guarded. You're going to get denied. We've got to cut harder, and we've got to screen to get you open. And that's something that we're trying to work on and get better. Sometimes we get stagnant. We stand around and we have trouble. We don't move the ball, and we just got to get better movement. And if we get better movement and we screen better, that's going to open things up for everybody else.
Right. It seems like there are junctures in the game where the offense it just cuts off. It looks like it just dries up like a.
Well, we gotta be patient. One thing that we noticed it in the last game when we watched film, and I don't think it was much better tonight, is it's not hard to defend on the first side of the floor. Defensively, anybody can be good for 1 or 2 passes. You can jump to the ball. You can be in great defensive possession on the first side of the floor. You have to reverse the ball from side to side and get defenses rotating from help side to ball side to help side to ball side. And once you get those rotations, defenses break down. And one thing that we really struggle with is we try to score on the first side of the floor every time. And then if we don't score on the first side, we break down offensively. And we've got to get better at moving the ball and moving people and getting defenses and defensive rotations. And if we do that, we're gonna be a much better offensive basketball team. But sometimes we're just impatient. We don't get it on the first side, then we force something. And we're young. You got to learn that. And not only is it harder to defend, but it wears teams down. Defensively, when you got to defend for 30 seconds, on every possession, and we're setting good hard screens, and you're cutting hard, that affects the way the other team plays on the other end of the floor, and that's just something we've got to work on.
You got any preliminary notification on the cost?
I don't. She's going to go. We think it might be more MCL than ACL, which we hope. But she was in so much pain when it happened; it was hard to get a good evaluation. I think my 50 50 dove for the loose ball, and she knocked one of the Averett players into Krista. So, but I hate to speculate. You don't know until at this point. We're hoping that maybe it's not an ACL. We're hoping that maybe it's a strained MCL, but. Once we get a better test and we're able to evaluate a little bit more, we'll know a little bit more. But, unfortunately, injuries are part of sports. It's hit us pretty hard this year, and we just got to
put any type of fear in your players.
You don't think so? You don't know. I don't think any of the kids are out there playing afraid that they're going to get hurt. I think some of the kids that have been through what they've been through. They're obviously it's a mental, and it makes them sick. Automatically it affects you. It affects you when you've seen 3 kids go down the way that we've had our kids go down this year, and they're in so much pain, and it's a serious injury. It affects you emotionally, and these kids work hard. They're close. They're tight knit. When you see kids going through that, it's tough. And we talked about that in the locker room afterwards. Is unfortunately it's part of sports. It's how you handle those things. And there's some tough things going on outside of basketball that's a lot worse than the injuries that we're having on the basketball court. And things like this just teach you how to handle adversity and deal with it. And you just got to make the best of it and move on.
The other girl, she just took a real hard fall.
She fell, and I think she, hit her head. I was afraid, with concussions, you're scared of that. But we evaluated her. I think she was in good shape. So she plays hard. She's on the floor all the time. So.
You've had such success against Averett lately. I was reading some odd stat that they had. I think you've only lost. Ferrum's only lost them 4 times since the 2000-2001 season. Even when a game gets tight against them, do you think there's still a level of that y'all expect to win?
I don't know. I would say yes with last year's group because we're a veteran group. And you have, I think that group, every time they stepped on the floor, the expectation was if we did things the right way, we're going to win. With this group, we're so young, I don't know. And we've talked about that as we need to have that mentality. We need to have the mentality. If you step out on the floor and you do things the right way, we're going to win. But I think when you're so young, sometimes how you play dictates, your confidence, and that's something that we've got to get better at. Like there has to be an expectation. I think they came here because they wanted to come here, and they felt like if we do things the right way, we're going to have a chance to compete for conference championships. And then, with that, you got to have the expectation you're going to get everybody's best shot. And you get everybody's best shot, you got to show up and you got to play hard. But, that's something that we're going to have to get. And it's easier when you got a veteran team than it is when you got a young team. We got a young team right now. A lot of kids. We talked about it at one point tonight. We had 5 freshmen on the floor at the same time. That doesn't happen very often, but, sometimes you have some it's challenging when you're in that situation, but we're going to be better off because of it down the road.
At one point you had that group of 5 freshmen that are in there together, and it was when we went through losing that 10-point lead. How was your thought? You're just going to leave them in there and hope that they can pull themselves out of it?
Well, Karen and Adam and I talked about that on the bench. Sometimes, one of the things that's important for Karen and Adam to do is to, they're constantly giving me ideas, things to think about, and sometimes I listen, sometimes I don't. Adam and Karen laugh. A lot of times she'll say something, and I'll say, no, we're not going to do that, and then 30 seconds later, I'll end up calling it, I'll do it. So, but that's what I want them to do. Throw ideas, say things to me. Sometimes I'm going to agree, and we're going to do it. Sometimes I'm not. But, with the freshmen, my thing is, we're kind of beat up and banged up right now. We got to play them. We have to play them in big games. And, if you just take them out when they make mistakes and the game gets close, they're not going to learn from it, and their confidence is going to drop. So, my thought process, we got to let them play through it. You got to let them play through it. You got to give them opportunities to learn from those experiences and get better. And, if you lose now, but it makes you better down the road, that's what we're shooting for, Not that I don't ever want to lose a game, but if it makes us better and we can be a better team down the road, then that's what we got to think about. And if I take those kids out when they make 2 or 3 mistakes in that game, they're not going to have confidence moving forward, and that's going to make us worse down the road. We might win this game, but I think it's going to make us worse down the road. So sometimes you got to look at the bigger picture, and that's my thought process. Let them play through that. I felt like during that stretch when they made the run, you have a media timeout at 7 minutes. And my thing is, I'm going to let these guys play to 7 minutes. I don't care what happens. At the under 7 minute timeout, we'll go back with our starters. We got 7 minutes, no matter what that situation is, the 7 minutes. And we, hopefully we can finish strong. And that's kind of how we went with it. And, that could have cost me and I could be kicking myself, now, but that was my thought process.
So I guess you like the fact they've added media timeouts, even though.
I don't know. It changes the game a little bit, and strategy-wise, a lot of times I'm thinking, hey, let's get to the 7 minute mark. I may not take a timeout when I probably should because I'm like, you're going to have a media timeout in a second. Or a lot of times we sub based on the media timeout. If I can take, somebody like Jacole out at the 8 minute mark, we'll give her a minute, and then you got the media timeout, which is another minute. Now you're giving her a 2 minute break, and really it's only been a minute of playing time. So I think it affects sometimes how you sub and how you take timeouts and things like that. It's just something different in the game.
You to hold your timeouts for later games.
It does. It does. I'm not, and trust me, I'm not very good with timeouts. I got.
You call. Excuse me.
Yeah. So.
Because whatever it was, you called 3 or 4. You called about 3 or 4 in the last whatever it was, 6.5 minutes.
Well, I'm not real great with timeouts. A lot of times I like to save them. I like to have them at the end of the game for strategy. And a lot of times when teams are making runs, I got to do a better job taking timeouts to stop runs. I like to save them. I like to have them at the end of the game for last-second situations. I feel like I do a better job with that than I do, using them to change momentum. And that's probably a weakness of mine. I gotta be more willing to take those timeouts during those stretches and try to change the momentum and slow the momentum down a lot. But over the years, I've had more success having them at the end. I think if you use them to try to change the momentum and then you don't have them at the end, there are a lot of times where you're in trouble when you're out. So,
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Gary.